Friends of Royal Oak First, today it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our preacher of the morning. And it is a real honor and privilege to invite this man of God, this preacher of the word, this leader of faith communities here in our area to be present with us today. It's my honor and privilege to welcome the Reverend B. Kevin Smalls, the lead pastor of Hope United Methodist Church, to be our preacher of the day. Hope is our sister congregation just down the road, yoked with us in service of the gospel in our communities. Kevin is relatively new to the Detroit area. He has been here now going on his fourth year. He and I feel yoked because we began these ministries just miles down the road from each other in the same season. Kevin is a native of the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area. He came to Michigan as a result of a national search, looking for the right person at the right time to fill the historic pulpit at Hope United Methodist Church. And in a short period of time, Kevin has shown us that he was the right man at the right time. Kevin is a graduate of Coughlin University in South Carolina, went on to the ITC to get his Master's of Divinity in Atlanta, Georgia, went on to serve congregations in the greater Washington, D.C. and Baltimore area before coming here. Kevin has been asked by the national church to be a speaker at many conferences. His passions are in youth. He's been asked to be a weighing voice on the issues of race and religion in our conference. And in a short period of time being here in the Michigan area, Kevin has been asked to serve on the local board of ordained ministry because he has an eye for what it means to be a leader in our conference. Well, I've told you all the fancy things about him, but the truth of the matter is Kevin's here today because he's my friend. He's one of my good friends, one of my best of friends. I got to know Kevin because he was new to the area and I was new to the area, and new preachers found each other and we met for lunch, and it was a good lunch. We're kind of feeling each other out, and as we got towards the end of the lunch, my friend leaned across the table and he said, "Look, can I be real with you?" And in that moment, Kevin shared with me some of the things that were going on in his life and asked me to be his friend and his prayer companion on it. Say, if you just want to be colleagues, that's fine, but I want you to know I need a friend. Little would I know that just a few years later, I'd call him and I'd say the same thing. "Kevin, can I be real with you? This is what's going on in my life. And if you want to be my colleague, that's fine, but I need a friend." And over these last 6 months, Kevin has been one of those honest and caring voices that has prayed for me and prayed with me. He is just one good guy. Yes, great preacher. Yes, great pastor. Yes, great leader in the area and the denomination. But at the end of the day, he was your pastor's pastor. He was his friend. And I tell you, that made all the difference in the world. During this last season, Kevin had a birthday, and I was invited to be a part of one of those virtual birthday parties, and it was significant for two reasons. One, it's because Kevin turned 50, which means he's older than me, and I don't mind letting him remember that. But I watched people from all over the country, people of different ages, races, and backgrounds, come together to celebrate this man's birthday and the impact that he has had on their lives. Then I got to be present for what was one of the most holy moments of this season for me. I got to watch this father of 50 turn to his oldest son in his mid-20s and say, "You, son, are my greatest accomplishment today, that you're still alive." And it wasn't lost on me that in this season, again, where we are reminded that Black lives matter, this father was saying, "I have prayed and hoped and carried you through to this moment, kid, and I'm just glad you made it." It was holy and a great opportunity to just be reminded of that leadership that Kevin shows to the church, is leadership that he's also brought to his home. Well, I know he's sitting over here in the front row, and he's like, that's enough talking about me, preacher. Get out of the way. I'd like to come up and bring the word. So without any further ado, it's my great honor and privilege to not just invite our preacher of the day, but my friend, the Reverend B. Kevin Smalls, to bring our word today. Kevin, thank you. You are a blessing to me, and I know you'll be a blessing to us. Enjoy the word, friends.
Grace and peace to you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I am so excited and thrilled and overjoyed to be with you, First United Methodist Church of Royal Oak. I cannot tell you how excited I am. I remember I was thinking on the way here, it was in July when we first moved here in 2016. We just ventured out in the area and we landed in Royal Oak to this festival where there was all this music and food and artwork, and I get the name of it jacked up several times. Arts, Beats, and Eats and stuff. So we were here, and as I do in most cases, I looked for where the neighborhood United Methodist Church is, and I found it. It was there on the corner, and I said to my boys, hey, let's go in and say hello. And we did. And I introduced myself, and I said that I'm a new pastor in the area, and I passed my card because I was told that I just missed the pastor, who was also new. So later we did catch up, and let me tell you, I have had an amazing time being in your pastor's company. He has become a great friend. He's rather expensive because I will have to pay him for that introduction. Nevertheless, he has been an awesome friend and a wonderful partner to sit in the movie theater, sometimes 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and break down some intense scenes and just have some conversation in a Coney Island somewhere. It has been a rich joy of mine to come to know him. I want to also thank you for the love that you have extended to him. I know firsthand in his job that sometimes you spend all your life being Reverend whomever, and sometimes you forget that you're still a person. And every now and then, we in this job need to reconnect with that. And so I know in my own life, I'm great with Reverend Kevin Smalls, but sometimes it takes me a while to be Kevin Smalls. And a better Kevin Smalls makes a really better Reverend Kevin Smalls. So I applaud you for the gift that you've given to him, and in turn, the gift that you have given to so many, because his voice is one that we need, his prophetic witness is one that we need, and it's one by which we've all been blessed. So I'm glad he's back in the saddle, and I know you are too. Today, our biblical travel agent checks us into the 16th chapter of Matthew, and I know that you have been sojourning with your pastor in Matthew's gospel for some weeks now. And we are at the concluding verses in the 16th chapter, and it's a very interesting, intense scene. A lot takes place in this 16th chapter. For one thing, it begins with the Pharisees and the Sadducees approaching Jesus with a question, with a request. Show us a sign. And the interesting thing with these two is the Pharisees and the Sadducees weren't really cozy with each other. They would never be seen hanging out together. They would never be seen in the same room. It wasn't that kind of grouping. They had different projections of what life should be like. You know, the Pharisees, for example, all they wanted is to be left alone. Just leave us alone and let us carry out our faith. That's all we need. And the Sadducees worked well with the government to preserve their elitism and their wealth and their upstanding in the community. The Pharisees had great reverence and anticipation for the coming Messiah. Sadducees, not so much. When he comes, we'll be good. But these two didn't really see eye to eye on anything except one thing, and that was their disapproval of Jesus. They joined together in this one way. They combined their energies, they combined their intellect and their insight and whatever resources they had to destruct and to destroy the ministry of Jesus. And this kind of thing unfolds all throughout Matthew 16. It goes through a series of conversations where they are challenging each other in very difficult ways. Now, really, to be honest, this group, this new unified group, had one thing that they were offended by. They didn't mind the Messiah coming, but the problem they had was the Messiah who came and claimed to be the Son of God. In fact, they had a problem with the Messiah who claimed to claim his lordship as though he is God. And for Jesus, that's what he gave. I am he. He is the Lord. He is God. He's not just one you check the list off. He's not just one that will liberate the oppressed. He's not just one that will give sight to the blind. He's not just one that will correct the wrong and separate the bad from the good. He is God. And he comes to bring the acceptable year of the Lord, and not only to set things right in terms of earthly experiences, but to make sure that the citizenship of heaven is increased and expanded to those who were excluded. This 16th chapter narrows in the conversation with Peter. It was a powerful conversation. It was an amazing conversation. And Jesus grills him as to who Peter thinks he is. And Peter comes up with the right question. You are the Son of God. Jesus recognizes that this is not something you can get standing on a corner. This is not something you can get memorizing the Torah. This is not something you can get traveling to the Passover every year. This is not something you can get attending synagogue every week. You have to have revelation to receive this. Flesh and blood has not given this to you, sir. As a matter of fact, upon this rock, I'm going to build the whole church. What a powerful, amazing, incredible moment that was for these two. But it doesn't last. It's a mountaintop moment where Peter is tossed off of that mountain in no time at all. Because at this moment, Jesus announces the birth of the church and everything it takes to keep it going. Starts off with, let me tell you, the Son of Man will be crucified by these that we've just been talking to. Will be crucified and killed, but he'll rise again. Peter pulls Jesus aside and says, no, don't say this here. I will not have it. I will not be a part of this. We will not see it. This is the worst thing you can say. After all, we've left family to come follow you. We've made sacrifices to come follow you. And we've watched you heal the sick, and we've watched you do miracle after miracle, and you announce this? Now, Peter didn't even get that far in the conversation. Jesus stops him and says these biting, chilling words, "Get thee behind me, Satan." That's how the King James Version crafts it, and it's just something poetic about it. And we often throw it around every now and then. Get thee behind me, Satan. But you just said, Lord, that upon this rock the church is built. Now, I think the thing is, it's not so much that Peter is Satan. It's that Peter became invested in only what he wanted and in only what he needed and only what he expected. And immediately this moment becomes about Peter. And when things become about oneself only, according to Jesus here, it's demonic. And I know this is tough. I know this is hard to hear. But the church began its journey figuring out that there's a difference between what it wants and who it is called to be. And we encounter this in this concluding verses of the 16th chapter. If you want to be with me, you must deny yourself. You must take up your cross and follow me. In other words, you must get used to the idea that you're going to have to suffer a little bit. It's almost impossible to walk this walk and not suffer. And so we come to a place where we have to realize very critical truths, even now, while the world is on fire, while the United States is on fire, while Michigan is on fire. We have to come to certain truths. And one is, Peter pulls them aside. Don't say that. And part of the insanity of the church is that we feel if you don't say it, or if you ignore it long enough, it doesn't exist. We feel that if you can just overlook it, it's not there. You feel that if you can just put a blind eye, it's not part of the reality. No, Jesus, crucifixion cannot be a part of your story. Death cannot be a part of your story. This is not what we signed up for, but it is. And sometimes to walk this walk, you have to get used to the uncomfortable work of naming things, of calling things out, of saying it in your speech. This is wrong. It can't be this way. No, I cannot get with this. No, I will not participate. No, I will not go along with it. No. This is an uncomfortable thing because it compromises, in some cases, all that we've been taught and all the many ways we've been shaped and the many ways we've been taught to see things and believe things. But the truth is, to walk this walk, you have to engage the uncomfortable work of letting Christ name the truth in you and through you. And this day, that truth was that the Son of Man must be crucified and die, but he'll come back. We say it, Christ has died, Christ has risen, Christ will come again. We inherit this marvelous mystery of faith that was originally introduced to Peter. Second issue is the disappointment that often comes with Christ. This is what I call the divine disappointment. Jesus was to be the Messiah, and we can handle that. We can deal with that. But to be God means that we have to be subservient to the Messiah. It means that we have to lay down our own stuff and follow the Messiah. It means that the fulfillment of all that we know to be faith is no longer in what we do obedience-wise, but in our faith in Christ and God's grace upon us. The disappointment of Christ is you no longer get the crown because of the club you're in. You now only get the crown because of the cross you carry. This was a different kind of analysis that the Pharisees and the Sadducees and that you and I are called to live into. It's a divine disappointment. It's that moment when you realize that messianic work is not limited to healing and miracles and changing night into day and day into night and water into wine and walking on water. But the messianic work also includes suffering and dying. And to do this, you have to deny yourself. Take up your cross and walk with it. And what I worry today is the church has learned how to walk without a cross at all. We leave it on a wall. We wear it around our necks. We hang it up on the refrigerator. We hang it in the rearview mirror of the car, but how many of us carry it? When was the last time you had a splinter from it? How many of our knees buckle with its weight? This is what it means to carry a cross. You know what it means? It means to say things like justice will prevail. It means to say things like, yes, all lives matter, of course, but Black lives matter because for so long they did not. It means to say things like, I will not let you stand by yourself. It means to say things like, you don't have to walk this walk alone. I will come alongside you, and I will walk with you. And when you get tired, I will carry you as far as I can. Taking up your cross sometimes means shifting your friendships because you just can't stomach the N-word anymore. Taking up your cross, sometimes it means disconnecting from organizations that you've been in and that your families have been in. And the beauty of this is that this is also what it means to suffer. It means to stand up for those who are weary and tired of trying to stand up for themselves. It's suffering. And it's the kind of suffering that Christ calls us to today. But it's not suffering without a promise. Lately, we've been hearing the term reparations quite a bit. And in our context in American government, what it really means is paying many, many African Americans and Native Americans and people of color for all the years of turmoil and difficulty that they've suffered. But I want you to know today that there's some things money can't buy. And there's some things money can't secure. There's financial reparations. But today Christ offers us salvific, theological reparations. For the Son of Man will come with his angels in the glory of his Father and will repay you for every time you became those that are oppressed. The Son of Man will come in company with all his angels in the glory of his Father and repay you for every time you gave up a bit of privilege to stand with the underprivileged. The Son of Man will come with angels in the glory of his Father to repay you for every time you were afraid your son taking a bike ride on a trail. For every time you stressed out about getting a knock on the door, asking you to come and identify your offspring. For every time you breathe a sigh of relief when the door opens with these words, Dad, I'm home. Because you know it doesn't have to be that way. And in some cases, and for some people, it wasn't. We're called to take up our cross today with the promise that all of this stuff we've got to deal with, and all of the abuse we have to put up with, and all of the psychological trauma that we have to walk into, I tell you that the Son of Man will come with his angels in the glory of his Father, the glory of God, and redeem us and unite us all at that table where we shall gather freedom-loving people and sit once and for all, where his banner over us will be love. And we will sit around and tell the story as to how we got over, and we will rejoice in that day where the lion lay down with the lamb. We will rejoice in that day when the young sat with the old. We will rejoice in that day when the black sat with the white and the white sat with the black, and we were all bound together in the unity and the love that only God can bring, that only Christ can offer. It is a cross transformed into a crown, and I tell you, when you walk in this walk, and when you live in this reality, this experience will be yours and mine. Not just for a moment, but for eternity. God bless you. God be with you.